You are 23 years old, standing at a window in Kolomna, watching the machine works exhale steam over the rooftops. The factory whistle blows the noon shift, the same sound you have heard your whole life. Kolomna has built locomotives since before your grandfather was born, and everyone you know has grease under at least one fingernail. Your father stands at his lathe in the next room, close enough that you can hear the metals singing under his hands. He never measures twice, only once, and he is never wrong. Your mother sits by the far lamp, a torn coat sleeve stretched across her knee. She believes nothing is beyond mending, only beneath someone's attention. Your older brother Grigory sits at the table in his officer's coat, home on leave, spine straight, even at rest. Grigory has wanted the uniform since he was 6 years old, and the party has never once given him a reason to doubt it. Your friend Anton leans in the doorway, uninvited as always, a crate of something unlabeled at his feet. Anton trades in whatever the state forgets to count, and has never once been caught. Across the yard, Yelena hangs washing on a line, a language dictionary balanced on the fence post beside her. She's teaching herself English from a book with a torn cover, one page at a time. You have loved her since you were both too young to call it that. Your grandfather sits nearest the stove, the only chair with a blanket already on it. He lived through the siege of Leningrad, and he speaks about it the way other men speak about weather. You expect in the ordinary run of things to marry Yelena within the year. You expect to follow Grigory's path upward through the party ranks, one careful promotion at a time. You expect to retire, decades from now, to a dacha outside this same town, close enough to hear the whistle. Your grandfather catches your eye across the room and beckons you closer with 2 fingers. The state feeds you, or it forgets you, he says. It has never once done both at the same time. Choose your masters the way you choose your ice, he says, by how long you believe it will hold you. You laugh it off, the way a young man laughs off anything that sounds like a warning. You do not yet know how many times those 2 sentences will return to you. Your marks at the academy are strong enough that a recruiter from Soviet military intelligence takes notice of your file. You sit across a bare table from a man who never once tells you his real rank. He asks about your languages, your memory for numbers, your willingness to be unseen. You answer honestly because you have not yet learned that honesty is a currency to be spent carefully. Within the month, you are cleared, processed, and reassigned out of Kolomna. Grigory shakes your hand at the train platform, proud in the uncomplicated way only he can still afford to be. Yelena does not come to the platform because you have not yet told her where you are going. The GRU folds you into a Moscow directorate that studies Western scientific and technical developments, quietly, from the inside of a state committee building that looks like nothing at all. Your first week, a senior officer takes you aside in a stairwell that smells of cold plaster. He is older than your father, with the flat, patient eyes of a man who has already buried people he liked. You will call him in your own head, the teacher, because he never once offers you a name. Trust the object, he tells you, never the man carrying it. Assume one listener you cannot see in every room for the rest of your life, he tells you. A secret told twice is a secret already spent, he tells you. You nod as if you understand, though you do not yet, not really. Over the following months, the teacher drills you on dead drops, chalk marks, and the particular boredom of watching a building for 6 hours and seeing nothing. The night before you leave Kolomna for good, your father presses something small into your palm. It is a cigarette case, dented steel, his own father's initials scratched crooked into the lid. It has outlived 2 wars already, he says. Keep it closer than you keep your opinions. You slide it into your coat pocket, where it will stay for the next 4 years. You do not yet know that this case will hold more than cigarettes before the decade is finished. By 1960, you are trusted enough to carry unmarked folders between offices the ordinary clerks never enter. You pass one such folder to a colonel 2 floors above you, a man everyone treats with a strange, careful warmth. You do not know his name, only that senior officers lower their voices when his door is open. You will learn much later that this same building, this same committee, houses one of the most consequential double agents of the entire Cold War. At the time, he is simply a colonel with an office you are told never to linger outside of. Yelena finds work as a translator for a publishing house, her English finally sharp enough to be useful. You marry her in a small civil hall, Grigory as witness, Anton arriving late with a bottle no one asks about. For a while, your life in Lifka looks almost exactly like the one you were promised as a boy. The first operation, late 1960. The teacher hands you a single sealed envelope and his street name in a district you have never worked before. Deliver it to the man reading a newspaper on the 3rd bench, he says, and do not look at his face. You walk the route twice before you approach, exactly as trained. The man on the bench does not look up as you set the envelope beside him. Your hands do not shake, and this surprises you more than the task itself. You walk on without breaking stride, counting your own steps to keep from counting his. You never learn what was inside the envelope, and you understand finally why the teacher told you not to ask. Over the next year, deliveries like this one become almost routine, a second grammar layered under your ordinary working day. You begin to notice small gaps between what your directorate reports upward and what you personally see with your own eyes.
A shipment manifest crosses your desk that does not match the warehouse count you personally verified the week before. You say nothing because saying something has never once improved anyone's situation that you have witnessed. The Doubt, early 1961. Grigory visits Moscow on leave, and over dinner he repeats, almost word for word, a claim about Soviet missile numbers you happen to know is inflated. You watch your own brother believe a figure you have personally seen contradicted in a classified file. You say nothing at the table, and the silence sits in your chest for days afterward. Yelena notices the change in you before you can name it yourself. "You've gone somewhere I can't follow," she says one night, not as an accusation, only as a fact. You tell her you are only tired, and you hate how easily the lie comes out. The first loss. In the spring, the teacher is reassigned without warning to a posting in the Far East. No one tells you why, and no one you ask seem to know either. His replacement is younger, colder, and treats you like a tool rather than a student. You keep the teacher's 3 rules the way other men keep prayers, silently, out of habit more than belief.
The moral complication, late 1961. Anton comes to your apartment late one night, pale, asking to borrow money you both know he cannot repay. You realize, from the way he will not meet your eyes, that his trading has finally reached someone dangerous. Your new supervisor has already asked you, in passing, whether you know anyone connected to black market currency. You understand that naming Anton would protect your own file completely. You give him the money instead, and you say nothing to your supervisor the next morning. It is the first time you choose a person over the version of loyalty you were trained to keep. It will not be the last time, and it will not always end this way. The Turn, winter 1961. A visiting trade attaché strikes up conversation with you at a reception, the kind of small talk your training has taught you to catalog rather than enjoy. He mentions, almost carelessly, a Western research paper that directly contradicts a figure your directorate published the month before. You realize, standing there with a glass in your hand, that you already suspected this. He leaves a card with a shop address on it, nothing more, and does not look back as he walks away. You carry that card in your coat for 3 weeks before you decide anything at all. You think of your grandfather's ice and how a man is supposed to know which piece will hold him. You visit the shop on a Tuesday, buy nothing, and leave a folded note under a shelf the attaché had mentioned only once. Your hands do not shake this time either, though for entirely different reasons. The arrangement. Over the following months, a pattern forms, small and disciplined, a chalk mark on a lamppost meaning yes, an absence meaning wait. You never pass anything you have not personally verified twice. You never pass anything through the same drop location twice in a row. You keep the film, when there is film, folded into the mining beneath your father's cigarette case. The dented steel that once held only tobacco now holds something that could end your life. You tell yourself this is a small thing, a handful of shipment figures, nothing that could matter to anyone important. You are not yet aware how many other, far larger channels are running through the same building you work in. The second loss, 1962. A junior clerk you have exchanged files with for 2 years stops appearing at his desk. No announcement is made, and his nameplate is simply gone by the following Monday. You ask no questions because in this building, questions have a way of becoming answers about the asker. You lie awake that night listing every document he ever handled that also passed through your own hands. For a week, you stop visiting your drop entirely, and the silence from the other side is total. The Wider case, summer 1962. Through the ordinary channels of gossip in a building full of careful men, you sense a change in the air upstairs. The colonel whose office you were once told never to linger outside of is traveling more than usual. London, Paris, back to Moscow, and back again. You do not know his business, and you have learned by now never to ask. Later, history will record that this same colonel was, during these very months, passing thousands of pages of Soviet military secrets to the CIA and MI6, information that would help the West understand the true limited state of Soviet missile forces. At the time, to you, he is only a face in a corridor, a man with a reputation for being untouchable. The Missile Crisis, October 1962. The building around you tightens overnight, phones ringing later, lights burning past midnight, and offices usually dark by 9. No one says the word Cuba aloud, but every face in the corridor carries the same particular strain. You process transport manifests you were not permitted to fully read, only stamp and forward. For the first time since you began, you feel the true size of the thing you were a very small part of. You do not sleep more than a few hours a night for 2 straight weeks. The Arrest, October 22nd, 1962. You arrive at the directorate one morning to find the colonel's office door sealed, 2 unfamiliar men standing outside it. No memo explains anything, and by noon his name has simply stopped being spoken at all. You learn only fragments over the following weeks, the way water finds its way through a sealed wall. He has been arrested for espionage, and the case against him is described in the little that reaches you as enormous. The building does not simply tighten now, it turns inward on itself, every desk a suspect, every friendship a liability. The third loss.
Your contact at the drop site goes silent for the final time, the chalk mark you leave answered by nothing at all. You return 3 times over 2 weeks, and 3 times the mark sits untouched. You understand without ever being told that this particular channel is finished. You do not know if your contact was arrested, reassigned, or simply frightened into silence. You will never know, and not knowing is its own particular kind of weight to carry. The reckoning. Internal security officers begin interviewing everyone who ever shared a corridor with the arrested colonel. Your own interview lasts 40 minutes, the questions circling the same 3 facts from different angles each time. You answer only what has already been verified elsewhere, exactly as the teacher once taught you. The officer across the table studies your file for a long moment before sliding it closed. You may go, he says, and you do not breathe normally again until you reach the street outside. That night, you burn the folded note the trade attaché once handed you, along with every scrap you can no longer explain owning. The choice to stop. Yelena finds you at the kitchen table at 3 in the morning, the cigarette case open in front of you, empty. She does not ask what it once held, only looks at your face for a long moment. Whatever it was, she says quietly, let it be finished. You close the case and do not open it again for the rest of the winter. You request and are granted a transfer to a purely administrative post far from the committee's operational floor. The trial, May 1963. The newspapers finally print what the building has whispered for months. A public trial, a Soviet officer, a British courier, charges of treason. Gregory reads the account aloud Adair, shaking his head at what he calls an unthinkable betrayal. You say only that it is a serious matter, and you keep your eyes on your plate. You think of the corridor, the sealed door, the face you glimpsed only a handful of times. The verdict when it comes is the one everyone already expected. You do not speak of it again, not to Gregory, not to Yelena, not even to yourself in the quiet of your own head. Anton's fall. Weeks later, you learn that Anton has finally been arrested, the black market debts he never repaid catching up to him at lost. You are not implicated because you gave him money instead of his name, all those months ago. He's sentenced to a labor camp in the East, a fact you learned secondhand from a mutual friend too afraid to say more. I write him one letter, careful and empty of anything true, and I never receive a reply. The quiet years. For the next 2 years, you file requisition forms and attend meetings about supply schedules, and nothing about your work is dangerous ever again. You watch colleagues rise past you in rank, and you let them, because rank was never what you were protecting. In 1965, you request early retirement from active service, citing your health, which is not entirely a lie. The request is approved without comment, a small mercy you had not expected. Retirement. You and Yelena move at last to a small house outside Kolomna, close enough to hear the old factory whistle on clear mornings. Gregory visits sometimes, still in uniform even after all these years, still certain of things you no longer are. You keep the cigarette case on a shelf by the window, empty, its dent catching the light every evening.
The years fold into each other, the way they do for every ordinary life. Births, harvests, small repairs. The generational frame, late 1990s. Decades later, your granddaughter visits from Moscow, a journalism student home for the summer. She has been reading newly opened archive material about the Cold War for a university paper. She sets a printed article on the table between you, a name from your old directorate finally spoken openly, in public, for the first time in her lifetime. Did you know him? She asks, topping the page. Were you ever afraid back then? You look at the cigarette case on the shelf for a long moment before you answer. The state feeds you or it forgets you, you tell her. It has never once done both at the same time. She waits, pen resting on her notebook, for you to say more. Choose your masters, you say, the way you choose your ice, by how long you believe it will hold you. I chose mine as carefully as I could, you say, and some of the ice held, and some of it did not. She does not fully understand you, not yet, and you are not certain you want her to. You take the cigarette case down from the shelf and turn it once in your hands before setting it in hers. Keep this closer than your opinions, you tell her, echoing words that were once given to you at a train platform, a lifetime ago. She closes her fingers around the dented steel, unsure what it once held, only certain that it matters. Outside the window, the old factory whistle sounds once, faint across the years, and neither of you looks away from it.